This afternoon, China's Foreign Ministry spokesman Zhao Lijian, he said that he wished that Nancy Pelosi recovers quickly from the reports. She apparently is not particularly ill at all, but he said she shouldn't postpone the trip, she should cancel the trip altogether. Now, that is a reference to word from Washington that she will still intend to come here to Taiwan at some point as a sign of the Biden administration's commitment to Taiwan, which has really ramped up after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. There's just been increasing concern that perhaps China would be emboldened by that move, or perhaps China would be looking to put even more pressure on Taiwan. So sending the House Speaker, somebody who's technically third in line to the presidency if the president and the VP were wiped out, sending her to Taiwan would actually be the most high-profile visit of a US official to this island in 25 years. But it's not happening now because of COVID, and the Chinese government no doubt would be happy about that. But Zhao Lijian this afternoon saying, hang on a minute, we'd prefer that you cancel it rather than postpone it.
And Bill, even if the trip did go ahead, Taiwan's president has had her own COVID problems.
Yeah, so had Nancy Pelosi not contracted COVID and come here to Taipei on the weekend, it's not even clear whether she would be able to meet Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen, because Tsai Ing-wen now is in a sort of form of isolation for the next 7 days because she's a close contact of somebody who tested positive. Taiwan at the moment has rising cases of Omicron. There's been about close to 400 or so today domestic cases. And for this reason, the Taiwanese president now is isolating. So on one hand, you've got Nancy Pelosi with COVID. On the other hand, if she did come here, maybe she wouldn't be able to meet with Taiwan's leader. The whole thing's a bit of a mess. Clearly, COVID is throwing a spanner in the works all over the place here in Asia.
Yeah, and it's not going away anytime soon either. Meanwhile, the US says the trip will be rescheduled. How could a future visit to Taiwan impact relations with Beijing?
Well, this is all about signalling, really. The Biden administration is trying to show that it is very committed to supporting Taiwan, continuing military sales to Taiwan, and if push came to shove and there was some sort of Chinese-initiated conflict, the Biden administration wants to project the idea that the US perhaps would intervene, which of course is the $64,000 question. It's never been clear whether the US would get involved. So sending Nancy Pelosi is a signal that the Americans are very willing to send very senior people here to try and shore up the relationship. Obviously, China is not particularly happy about this, but does it really make a difference in terms of strategy? Something that doesn't get reported very often is that on a near daily basis, the Chinese PLA flies jets, helicopters, reconnaissance planes, sometimes even bombers into Taiwan's air defense identification zone. Now, if you look at it on a map, it's a huge zone. It's not Taiwan territorial waters or airspace, but it is a deliberate provocation from the Chinese side because the flight paths so often just go into the southwest corner, or they skirt around the southern edge of the air defense identification zone. So it's very purposeful what the PLA is doing. So this is all about saber rattling. It's all about forcing the Taiwanese to scramble in jets to respond. It's all about pressure. And so whether the US sends senior officials here on a regular basis or not, does that deter the Chinese from taking these sorts of steps? Probably not.
So then, really important to Taiwan there. What's their stance?
Sorry, Yvonne, could you just repeat that question? I didn't quite hear it.
What about Taiwan? How important would a visit to them be?
Yeah, it would be hugely important because the Taiwanese government, of course, is internationally marginalised and isolated, and any visit from any sitting member of the US Congress, particularly the House Speaker, is hugely important. It's symbolic. It's a way for the Taiwanese government to say to people here, look, the US, as far as we can see, does have our back. The strategy in Taiwan, of course, if China ever did militarily attack, would be to try and defend the island until the US intervened. If the US didn't intervene, then I don't really hear anybody here say that the Taiwanese military stands much of a chance. So having a senior US official reaffirm that relationship is hugely important. Just a month or two ago, Mike Pompeo, the former Secretary of State, was here. We also remember last year Tony Abbott, the former Australian PM, was here. These are all people who used to be in office. The Taiwanese government made quite a big deal when they came over, but to have a politician from the United States with the status of Nancy Pelosi that high up the chain would be hugely important to the Taiwanese government.